Flood-prone towns, what does that mean for Queensland? Where are prices going after this? We thought Mark Novak had been washed away this morning. Stay tuned. In the big smoke.
In the big smoke. How are you?
I'm good. I got very, very nervous when you didn't answer the phone this morning, Mark.
I'm sorry about that, mate. I'm so sorry. I was with the accountant at 7 o'clock this morning, and time went away.
But we're live, coming to you with a good topic. That's the good news.
Yeah, interesting topic, because I know we saw some media spruiking what property price is going to be doing, and that relationship between property prices and now these towns that are being flooded. How does that property price affect that town being flooded? Do people simply not care about it that are buying and selling in that area, or does it erode prices when these places get flooded?
That's it. What's interesting about today's point of topic being Brisbane is it's not the first time it's happened. You know, they've had bad floods before and they've bounced back, and they're going to do it again, Mark.
They do bounce back, but look, I don't think people forget though. Like I think at the end of the day, people, and you and I had this conversation the other day when we were talking about it. I think what people start to do is, well, I'm going to go something a bit more quieter. I think what people start to do is it follows that curve of what other property prices do. So you actually probably may end up buying a little bit cheaper in a flood-prone town, fact, because of that reason. But I genuinely believe that when you're selling for a little bit cheaper, which is not a bad thing. But you're still following that nice curve, the same curve. So you may make out of your flood-prone property 50% over a 10-year period, say. But the non-flood prone properties made 50% as well. But you're buying one for cheaper. Do you know what I mean? So that flood prone property you're probably buying for $300,000, and the non-flood prone you're probably buying $500,000. But when you're selling it, you're still making the same percentage. So it actually doesn't really matter, because you know, and whether it's flood prone, whether it's fire prone, whether it's you know, all those different variables in a property, you're still following that same nice curve. Busy road, quiet road, you're still following that same curve.
Yeah, agreed. What's interesting will be to see where Brisbane's prices do go, though. You know, they took a bit of a hit last time. Do you think it's going to be pretty immediate? I mean, there's a huge amount of damage.
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's particularly when properties are damaged, like they're damaged. I think it's, you know, there's going to be some serious hits in those areas. But Billy, I don't mean to sound mean, and this isn't Queensland versus Melbourne or Queensland, Sydney versus Queensland, any of that stuff. But a part of the reasons why Sydney does well as a whole is also a weather thing. When you look at Sydney as a whole, it's a better climate. You know, like those fundamental basics of a city and why those cities do well. One of the massive one is weather patterns. Is, you know, humidity. Is it's too cold, it's too hot. That's why Sydney does well property wise.
Yeah, we had to talk about it off air, and it's like everyone wants that, and then how much are you willing to pay for it? Because, you know, everyone's in the same boat. New York is New York for a very good reason, and Sydney is Sydney.
And you do pay more, but you do get insulated against you know, there's better transport systems, better weather, all that sort of stuff, you know. But you do pay more.
Certainly do. back in 2011, here's a little fun fact for you. Prices dropped as much as 18% in the bad floods, but came back even stronger to where we are now. Do you think we're going to see a correction that much? Or do you think people will eventually get, used to it? There's obviously new building regulations now where, people are starting to get around the floods. More information out there where the floods are bad or prone. What do you reckon?
I think there will be price erosion in those flood prone areas. Yes, and I think they'll come back. Yes, but I think at this time there's also a bit of stress in the markets because we've had such insane growth that sometimes there is a slight correction after insane growth, like after booms, and now coming off that boom and then coming off that flood. I think that could equate to a 5-10% correction, 15% correction in the flood-prone areas. Yeah.
Well, talking about Brisbane's market, they had as of last quarter last year, their prices were up 8.5%. So they were actually tracking well
For a quarter.
Off the back of quarter 4 last year. Yeah.
Wow.
Into the new year. So yeah, they're tracking well. Do you think that's going to go away altogether now? Is it going to go back the other way? We've actually got a few comments here as well.
I don't think it's hard. I think property is a little bit like a train. It's hard to stop the train fast. It's hard to get the train going fast. It's a bit gradual, but I think you'll see that taper off, that growth.
Yeah. Definitely a different market to 2011. 80,000 people have moved into Queensland in the last 2 years.
It's a big number.
People have short-term memories. Yes,
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
They really do. It's amazing how people are very hand to mouth. What's instant happening in their time of life at that moment. People are like that, so I think they do. But you also mentioned, Billy, plans, the way properties are built. They're built very differently these days. When a lot of properties were built 30, 40, 50 years ago, the rules and regulations were completely different to today. The nice thing about people building today is, that there's massive consideration around fire. There's massive consideration around floods. So generally a lot of properties are insulated against that because of the codes they're made to adhere to now.
Yeah. The other thing we spoke about was, costs associated with living in these flood-prone towns. Do you end up actually paying a bit more of a premium? You think moving rural, sometimes you get a bit of a discount, but when you take into account things like insurance, whether you can get insurance in some of these places after what's happened year on year,
it's such a good point. Yeah,
picking elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a massive point. Look at those. If you are looking at moving to regional areas of Australia, look at those costs. Are you paying a higher interest rate? Do you need to put in a larger deposit? Is the capital growth going to be as good as a big one? But the one you're talking about as well is those outgoings. I think you may find, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Even travel to see family of where you do normally live. All that's got to be considered.
True. Yep. Luke reckons 20% growth this year in Brisbane.
Ooh. That's a big number. Interesting.
Very interesting. It's bold. It's bold from Luke.
I'm gonna screenshot that one just so you know. There you go. I'm holding Luke to that one.
But yeah, do you? And that's another thing. The poor people at the moment, that have been actually affected by these floods. Your hack's got to go after them. It's a tough old time. I read something like a silly number of insurance claims have been put in for New South Wales over the last week with what's happened more locally. on the northern beaches, and Lismore, of course. It's absolutely nuts. But we thought we'd come on air this morning. We'd talk a little bit about flood-prone towns. I mean, is it a reason to not live there? You know, there's a lot. We're talking about towns or, you know, big towns with a lot of people, all in the same boat.
It's something you've definitely got to consider. It. I think if you're not, I think it's when it's a sunny day and you're on holidays at that location, or you're there for a week or two, you think this is just beautiful in summer. I think you definitely got to consider everything. Don't just be like, nah, mate. You know, it's huge. Like if you went through these towns at the moment, which you never will because you can't get in there, but you'd go, there's no chance in hell I'm ever going to buy here. So I think you got to look at that stuff for sure. But our hearts definitely go out to these guys. It is horrendous, absolutely, Lise. You know what? Another thing is, Billy, that we were talking about. I was having a chat with Lise about it. You know what's interesting? The insurance companies never go. You'd think when there's that many claims, insurance companies would go under as well.
Yeah.
And the conversation I was having with it is insurance companies have themselves insured.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a name for that. I forget what they call themselves, but they insure the insurance company.
Yeah, and these guys are international conglomerates. You know, actuaries, running numbers, and all that sort of stuff. So there's sort of no need to worry about, you know, is NRMA not going to be able to pay the claim, or these big insurance companies, they insure themselves against these massive catastrophic things that happen in countries.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
Mate, no, but sorry about being late this morning.
That's all right. We got it out.
And
it's all fun in the big smoke.
Very top of mind topic. And you know what? Our hearts go out to everyone that's flooding. Northern Beaches, we were exposed to it. Our house was exposed to it. Our family home, and it's, you know, it's horrific. It puts everyone on their knees and in tears. A couple of times where you know, the last couple of days, like it's been a very emotional time. But I think we've got to, you know, in terms of property prices, I fully support buying in flood-prone or fire-prone areas, and I think you are buying. I know you are buying it for cheaper, and I do believe that you are still following that curve of growth, and I do believe you're following, in summary, the same curve of growth of a property not in a flood-prone area or not in a fire-prone area. So it's still good real estate. Let's not be silly about it. Not something that floods 10 times a year, but, you know, or you know, yeah. I think it's okay.
That's it. Have a good day. I'm rolling the outro.
See you, legend.
Ciao.